Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get the Flick Out of Here, Christmas edition. I'm your host, a dude with Christmas lights wrapped around him, and with me, as always, is Kate. Kate, we decided to do one of those episodes where I do one that you didn't watch, and you do one that I didn't watch, and then we regale each other with the craziness. This is, of course, is the show where we review sometimes bad, but always oddball type movies. I think that certainly yours fits under bad, and mine fits under oddball. And
mine's an American classic.
So I guess without further ado, we're going to start with yours, and because mine is such a damn trip that I don't think anybody will be able to concentrate on anything after they hear about it.
Sure. Well, I don't know how I let you get away without watching this, to be honest. I thought I was going to be so
because
vengeful.
you value my mental health.
I do, but at the same time, there is an AJ Lee's sister and Freddie Prinze Jr. vehicle that we haven't gotten into, so just there's things coming. But what I watched was The Christmas Wedding Planner, which you can watch on Netflix. What a gem. This is like delightfully off the top, like so perfectly in that like Hallmark Lifetime vein. You have some of the compulsories, you have a dead parent involved, you have something that makes no sense, it is completely insane. Everything feels kind of cartoonishly done, delightful in that way. What I actually kind of appreciated about this one is the actors, they knew the assignment, and they were actually pretty good. Like, the lead male in this should have a career. Like, he shouldn't. And maybe he does, like, outside of this.
I love that you fully acknowledge he does not.
Yeah, there's no, if you're doing this, you're not, like, killing it right now. But he's a good-looking guy. He's a real good actor. I don't know why you do this otherwise. But then again, we saw Lindsay Lohan do one, so who am I to say? But
right.
And what's also fun is my sister and I realized this when we started watching them just one time when she was over, and I was like, we have to watch these, because she'd never really bothered because she has self-respect or something. So I was like, no, I think you're gonna be into like how ridiculous these are. And she was. But what we realized is that everybody, like in casting, there's like so and so type. This is like, there's like has to be a ripoff of people, and how close this woman looks to Natalie Portman as the lead. And like, it's almost like, so I got a new dog, and we're like, she's a mix that's predominantly blue heeler and Australian cattle dog, and probably something else in there. She's like mostly Natalie Portman, probably something else in there. Like, that's how. And the male lead in this is like if the guy from Burn Notice didn't look so LA and was pretty attractive or something. Like, there's like flavors of, it's so funny how like with lead characters in these things, you see like shades of the actors that they were like, if we had a real budget, this is who we would go and get. But
right.
Loved the start of this movie because it starts off with just stock footage, like just whatever stock footage B-roll they could kind of put together. And then immediately we get like, what's it called? Not fair trade, but those open source Christmas song for sure at the beginning. Cheesy narration from her talking about how she's in the business of love, but her cousin's wedding is her first real wedding. And then we see this blonde who's like killing it, locks flowing, coming out of a coffee shop, and she's like, that's not me though. And then we see her come in and immediately run into the woman holding coffee, because if you're a lead in a Hallmark, Netflix, Lifetime movie, the first thing that you have to be is clumsy, like 100%.
Yeah, no, they know the audience that they're attracting. And they want them to identify.
Yeah.
So
It's just, but if you're a woman, you have to be clumsy. We saw this with Lindsay Lohan.
Yep.
It's in our blood.
Mhm.
But what was special about this movie and what really set it apart is we get the meet cute like 45 seconds into this movie.
Oh, wonderful. Dispense with the pretense. That's what I say.
It's actually on the gamut here, not the worst.
Sure.
Keeping in mind what we're comparing it against.
Right.
She runs into this guy at the coffee shop because she's such a klutz, right? She runs into the woman, but then is kind of like getting herself together, and he's like, "Are you all right?" And she was like, "Yeah." And we learned that she's at the coffee shop on an assignment to get a blueberry scone for her aunt before her cousin's engagement party, whose wedding it is, that it's the first that she's ever planned. So before this engagement party, she's just doing a favor, picking up Aunt Olivia.
Getting a scone?
Getting a blueberry scone for Aunt Olivia on her way to this engagement party. And she lets him order first because she was like so fumbled and whatever. And what happens? But he orders the last blueberry.
Oh
scone.
no!
Oh, and like 12 coffees, and so she's gonna be late.
Always the way?
It's the worst. It's just the worst.
My goodness.
So, I mean, just not off to a great start here. But then she gets to the engagement party, and we see Aunt Olivia. They're very well-to-do family. It's incredible how much this wedding is about the wedding planner and not the bride. Like, right off the bat, it is so much more about the challenges that she faces as a planner. We do learn.
Well, they didn't name the movie The Christmas Bride.
It's true. But even
the titular character.
Even the mother of her cousin, her Aunt Olivia, is just so much less concerned with her daughter being the bride than she is with the planner. She looks wardrobe wise like they picked the leftovers of Sex in the City to show up scale. Like she's just like a burden her hair away from being Sarah Jessica Parker. But we learned that Aunt Olivia is like the only female role model in her life. This is crucial. I'll explain why. And she's very well-to-do, very proper, but not like terribly cold or callous. She still has a lot of love for her. It's kind of evident there. But who's at the engagement party, Alex?
No.
Yeah, with the blueberry scone. And there was a whole to-do.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. That's very funny to me because the way you said it. Who's at the engagement party? No. Yes, the blueberry scone. Somehow the blueberry scone hailed a cab and got there.
Made it.
Oh no. The guy who bought the blueberry scone. Okay, yes, that makes more sense.
The fellow who bought it
is
there with the blueberry scone. That was given to the aunts. She had like tried to buy it off of him with everything that was in her pocket because it can't be a muffin, Alex. It has to be a scone.
No.
So she's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he kind of very easily and quickly essentially gives up the fact that he's a PI and that he's there to investigate. Which I don't know anything about being a PI, but I feel like giving up that information to someone you've known for 20 seconds in a coffee shop is probably not the best way to go about business.
Nah.
But she was like, "So you knew who I was?" And he was like, "I did know who you were." So he basically was screwing her over for no good reason because he brought the blueberry scone to her. There's also completely inconsequentially the editor of Wedding du Jour magazine is at the engagement party. Aunt Olivia doesn't like her very much, but acknowledges that it could be really big for her career. Kelsey is the female lead's name. If she was able to get into this magazine, it's not really brought up again in any way, shape, or form. I don't even think we see the reporter at any point again. So this was just definitely there was a second scene that got cut that and they left this one in for some reason. But we also learn that Hot PI is the ex of the bride from years ago. They're on friendly terms, but suspicions start to arise. But they are still friends, and Kelsey rightfully finds that weird. So she's a little suspicious of Mr. PI guy.
Is his name Magnum?
It is not. It's Connor. It should have been Magnum, though.
It should have been Magnum. Should have been Connor Magnum, PI. And then there could have been a joke about how, did you ever think about not becoming a PI with that last name? And it's like, listen.
He's advertising that he's a PI anyway. Like, you might as well. So, again, like, it's kind of a bummer that he was, like, in this terrible movie, because he's a pretty good actor. And he's like, I'm not here to break up the wedding. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. And then kind of casually as he's leaving, he's like, but I can't promise it won't get ruined. Bye. And he like heads out the door, which is actually kind of a cute little scene. But he says that if she wants this wedding to go well, they should work in tandem, not against each other, which she kind of immediately blows off. So, just your typical wedding PI, first time wedding planner. And that's not even the weirdest part of the movie. We see her texting someone about the events of that day. Crucially, the text message says sent. It's very important that you guys know that. I'll tell you why later. So the next kind of event that we get to is that there is a fitting for the dress that she's going to choose. Here's the challenge, Alex. Aunt Olivia wants her to wear the family dress. The family dress is kind of matronly. She doesn't want to wear the family dress. And it's up to the wedding planner to solve this dilemma.
Oh my goodness.
Which she does by telling her that the modern day dress looks great and not really fully. They make like a very big deal out of the fact that she has to solve this challenge, and the resolution is that the bride just gets the dress that she wants. Like there's not like, okay, well maybe we'll use the veil from the old dress. Nothing like really there. We do meet the cast of bridesmaids who are just the most...
you mean the group of bridesmaids that's in this movie. I thought for some reason they meant the cast of the movie Bridesmaids, and they should probably sell this feature of this film
off of like Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph's back.
Kristen Wiig and Maya Angelou are here. That's kind of crazy.
Maya Angelou?
Yeah, Maya Angelou. Right, that's her name, right? I get those two mixed up.
Maya Angelou, Maya Rudolph.
Maybe she'd be texting her too, since she's also dead. Whoops! Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. You took away my moment.
I'm sorry. I had to after I ruined everything by saying Maya Angelou instead of Maya Rudolph. I had to make it about myself twice. I'm sorry.
Come on, guy with Christmas lights around his neck. So there's the jealous bridesmaid who just through the whole movie. There's always one. Because you can't just have people that are happy and supportive for her. She just keeps commenting on everything, being how, that's exactly what I would do. That's her whole character. There is the bitter divorce bridesmaid who is like, we could just go to Fiji instead. And then there's, of course, the clumsy bridesmaid, because every woman has to be clumsy.
That's right.
And that is her one character trait. They are as ethnically diverse as a college bookstore catalog. It is the most like, there's the Hispanic person and the Black person and the white person. Love that there's representation. If they figured out a way to make it not feel so token, because the portrayals of these people are absolutely cartoonish.
Yep.
That would be great. But so this Todd, the fiance, who is being investigated. Todd comes in. hands out like kind of gifts, I guess, to the bridesmaids, like bracelets, I think it was. And then he's talking to the woman at the front desk a little too closely, if you ask me. Whispers in her ear something, leaves his number in the guest book where everybody else was only leaving like names and emails. We're going to come to that later. And that is the first time that Kelsey thinks maybe Connor Magnum PI has a point here. So the next thing that she has to do is kind of find out what's going on with the receptionist. She doesn't trust Connor so much yet. But they go to I think they're supposed to be doing a wedding cake tasting. And she knows, I forget why or how she knows, but she knows that the receptionist from the wedding cake or from the wedding dress place is also supposed to be meeting the chef. She's on a very close friendship with the person or the baker, I guess, that's making her cake. And so she calls an audible to be having a baking class with the bride-to-be at the same time that this woman is going to come pick up her cookies. And her grand plan is to have them both distracted, reach into this woman's purse to get out a cell phone, to get out her meeting book, whatever. And the baker is kind of probably the worst actor in the film, but also like, hey, I shouldn't be mixed up in your bullshit. I was like, good for that guy. But chaos ensues. She finds the meeting book, and the meeting book says, thanks for the hookup, with his number. It's not what it looks like. You're already putting out spoilers. I will let you know. So she decides because of this, she's going to meet up with Connor Magnum PI at a restaurant. This is my favorite scene of the movie. By far. Well, the ending's pretty great too. But we have a cameo from Joey Fatone. He has 2 scenes, maybe 3 in the whole movie. And this one, he was not in the room at the same time as Kelsey and Connor for. So the shots of it are just Joey Fatone, the 2 of them. Joey Fatone, the 2 of them. And the most stilted, unnatural dialogue that there ever was. Like, and I don't think it was anybody's fault. I think, just inexperienced actor Joey Fatone acting against nobody, and weird camera cuts doesn't really work. But Kelsey says, all right, you tell me the nature of your relationship with the bride that was, and I will help you work on a PR, but no lying, no secrets. We also find out that, again, like the amount of work that they do to have stuff that makes no sense in this movie. Connor Magnum PI is also like a co-owner of the restaurant that they're at, and like kind of, I guess, is co-owners with Joey Fatone, which sort of comes into play later. But yeah, it's just a weird little scene. They then go to a social event of Todd's parents as the next move. Aunt Olivia does not want to go. She doesn't want to hear them talk about their boat all that much anymore. Ridiculous. They get to the party. They're there as boyfriend and girlfriend because, of course, they would have to fake it before they pick it. Right. And it's the easiest cover. And so they go into this like mansion. They say they're understaffed because they had to let someone go recently. Again, very roundabout, but comes back later. And they're like looking all over for hints and clues about stuff. And they break into the office of one of the owner of the fiance's dad. And they like put a USB in the computer and just steal files, just general files. I forget how they guessed the name. It had something to do with his boat, but they like guessed the password. And then, of course,
password boat, but the O is a 0.
There it is. It was like the name of the boat or something.
The name of the boat is Boat.
His boat with the 0 too. Even on the back of the boat, it has a 0.
No one will ever guess this password.
You'll never know. It's almost secure as password 123.
That's right.
So he walks in while they're downloading the files, the father of the fiance. And so Kelsey grabs Connor and kisses him as if they were like trying to sneak off and make whoopee. And it works. The father-in-law is like, I've had some fun in my day, basically. It's like, I completely, I get it. Not even like remotely grossed out, like alarmingly okay, like he was gonna sit there and watch or something. It was really
yes. This my old desk has seen its share of buttocks.
So she then gets the brilliant idea because catering falls through, because there's so many challenges in being a wedding planner, Alex. Joey Fatone is going to cater the wedding.
See, this is why I love. I'm sorry, I don't know if I haven't seen the picture, but the way you say things makes it funnier because you go catering falls through, an open manhole cover, because that would be something to do. Like they're getting the cake out of the back of the catering van, turn around and whoop. Now see there, that's something.
Ooh, we should do a 3 Lies episode of these. So then there's a montage of them investigating and flirting. They're like in the truck together, and she finds out that wedding dress gal and Todd, the fiance, are going to be at dinner together at a very romantically vibed spot. And so Connor and Kelsey go to dinner at that same spot, and foolishly, I can't believe I almost forgot this. What you've spoiled. This is where it comes out. She's texting someone, and he's like, hey, who you texting? And instead of being like a friend, she decides to reveal to Connor Magnum PI, it's her dead mom. She's texting her dead mom.
She just tells him?
He
doesn't have to find out using his crackerjack private eye skills?
Nope. Just spells it out. Texting her dead mom, says like, I know it's kind of odd. And he's like, no, like we all grieve in different ways. And I was like, nope, that's not the reaction you should have to that, dude. You should be like, that's weird. You need mental help. Why are you keeping your dead mom's cell phone plan alive? Because we know these texts went through. That's weird. And so this is supposed to be like a layer that leads to their romance almost. Like this is like their emotional connection point. It's so bizarre.
The obvious way to handle that is she lies and he's jealous because he likes her. So he's trying to find out who she's sexting. Is it an ex-boyfriend? Like what's it, like all that kind of stuff. So he looks into it and he finds out she's been texting this plan. Ross references and realizes it's her mom. It's like, why would she be secret about that? Looks up her mom. Oh, her mom is dead. And then he reveals that he found out, and she is angry that he was Snoop. And he says, no, I understand. There's a voicemail on my phone from my dad. And I listen to it every so often just to hear his voice. So I get it. And there's your connection. Like immediately she thinks he's been snooping. He has been, but it's okay because they have a connection there. That is, I wrote that in 5 seconds in my head. It's better than him going like, hey, so who you texting? My dead mom. Yeah, I get it. Like
I can't emphasize enough how almost equally as casual that conversation was. Like the fact that he was not at all surprised is so bizarre to me.
Oh, hey, who you texting? My dead mom. That tracks. That tracks. Seems legit.
It's some of the most incredible cinematic footage you can find. Yeah. This was like in the vein of So Bad It's Good, by the way. Like I was in stitches watching this movie. But as they're at dinner, she completely embarrasses herself because she just goes up to Todd during the middle of his dinner with wedding dress woman and accuses him and says, I saw you at the wedding shop, leaving your number and getting too close. And he tells her that he paid for the dress and she cut him a hell of a deal because they've known each other forever. So he was taking her out to dinner as a thank you, which seems legit. And I think she's also married. So, like, seems like it was actually just a pretty friendly dinner. Like, and she's causing a scene. Not the best PI in the world.
No,
which isn't great.
Definitely not Magnum.
Definitely not Magnum.
No.
Aunt Olivia sees the crush kind of developing between Connor and Kelsey. And so when this outburst happens, everybody in the situation agrees it's best not to tell the bride about it, in fear of upsetting her right around her big day. And she doesn't, they don't want her to be worried or anything. But so we did find out in the from the bridesmaids at the wedding dress scene too what happened with Connor and the bride, which was, or their perception of it, I should say, which was that things were pretty serious. They were considering moving in together, and then one day he kind of just disappeared, like pretty much out of the blue, ghosted her, which nobody thinks to like maybe ask like why he did that. He's just a bad guy for doing that. So we find out later in kind of the biggest point of contention that her dad paid him off to go away because I think it was because like he wasn't going to be able to give her the life that she deserved or something. I think it was a social class thing. I can't really remember because this movie gets so much weirder. But there was a reason, and he never cashed the check. He just goes away. And so crucially, Kelsey has a copy of this check. When she goes to check in on the catering situation, she approaches him with the check and is like, I can't believe you would do this. I never should have trusted you. I know how you treated my family members. I'm not going to let you treat me like that. Does not give him the slightest chance to explain. She was like, I thought we had something real outside of this catering situation. I never want to hear from you or speak to you again. Blah, blah, blah. So then kind of the next consequential thing, and it's so incredible, is like the wedding day arrives. And everything's going well. Everybody looks great. We get to, famously, the scene of, does anybody have any objections? And nobody in the church does. But here comes Connor, Magnum PI. This is the most incredible reveal to me. Oh, I'm sorry. Before this, we see the subtly orchestrated scene of a woman who is very pregnant coming into the restaurant as Kelsey's leaving. Hispanic, fully pregnant, desperate to talk to Connor. And we don't find out why until now. He comes in right before the I do's and says that Todd knocked up the help of his parents, this woman. Which, like, so many other ways, like, he could have just cheated on her with the wedding dress gal, right? But that's why they were understaffed at the party, was they paid this woman to go away, so the parents aren't exactly the most scrupulous in the world either. And my favorite part, I think, of this is that it had nothing to do with any of his detective work. This woman just came in, knew he was a detective, because it's pretty well broadcast, and told him. So none of his detective clues are what led to this. Wow. And then, obviously, the bride is disgusted. Obviously, Aunt Olivia is disgusted, but, like, handles the situation. And they go outside, and it's the best. Kelsey is like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for solving that. And he kind of briefly explains that he was offered this money and he didn't accept it, but he wanted to go away for the betterment of the bride, and that's why they broke up. And he proposes to Kelsey, who he was not on speaking terms with, and he has known over the course of wedding planning, and he does so with the ring of the bride whose wedding just got called off, and they go into the church of the wedding she just planned, and they get their asses married. And that, my friend, is the Christmas wedding planner. What
does it
happens
have to
in
do
the
with
last...
Christmas again? Like, is this because it takes place at Christmas, or?
Yeah, it's like a Christmas wedding, so we see tons of like Christmas decorations and like.
But it could have just been like the wedding planner, except no, they already did that.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
it could have been a summer wedding. Like nothing
Santa's
about
not
it
involved
really
in
makes.
this. There's very little to do with the plot.
Then we find out Connor is actually Santa's son. Like it's no.
Like what happens in the last 12 minutes of this movie compared to the first hour?
Oh, right, sure.
It's incredible. Like it becomes a soap opera, and before that, it is just the most mid romantic comedy in the history of the world. Wow. But again, like the lead actor is great. The lead actress is also pretty good. Like she's not bad. So it is kind of funny to watch them try and navigate this not just bad writing, but a just insane, terrible plot. Like it's a blast. It's really fun. There's so much laughing at it. It's I can't keep the flick in because I feel like that implies it was good, but it's right on the cusp. Like it's right there because I was entertained by it, but not in the way, but maybe in the way they intended. It was entertaining in the ways that the actors intended, but not entertaining in the way that the writers and directors presented it.
One of those.
So if you're a white girl and you're looking for one of these dumb movies to watch, this is one of the better ones because you are like at least along for the ride. I've seen some of these where I'm like, I will sign up for any of these stupid ass movies, and I can't do it. Nope. But this is one of the better ones. In that it's ridiculous and that they can at least carry along how dumb this thing was. So incredible. But like wedding dress saleswoman never comes into play. Dead mom doesn't come into play. Editor doesn't come into play from Wedding du Jour magazine. Like the left turn that they take to make him have knocked up the help of his parents is so ignores so many other opportunities that they could have had for him to cheat.
It's a swerve. It's a swerve. That's why. It's
a swerve, but like, it's so. The fact that woman just walks into the restaurant is so. It just undercuts any of the detective work that was done because she's like, I volunteer this information to you. We don't see him call her like in a way to be like, hey, I think I discovered some information here. Can we talk about it? Like none of that. She just waddled in 8 months pregnant. And yeah, it's for even for a swerve, it's pretty poorly executed.
Pretty bad.
So delightfully stupid. Can't keep it in because I do feel like that insinuates that there's quality to it. But if you want to sign up for something dumb, this is one of the better ones to sign up for. And just for the Joey Fatone scene of him not being in the room at the same time.
Perfect.
It's so good.
So, for mine, I had a vague, weird recollection. Do you ever like think like there a movie that you watched when you were a kid and you haven't seen since, and it's like, did I dream that? Is that a thing that like? So this is something I've had for years about this particular movie. And then I just was looking through Christmas movies available to me on Prime Video, and here it was. It's called The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. Only that's not what it's about. It is available because I subscribe to Amazon Plus through no, it's not, sorry, AMC Plus through Amazon Prime, which is how I was able to find it, because I got like for Prime Day or whatever, it was like $1 for 3 months or something, and I just haven't canceled it. Which I'm glad I didn't, because this movie's on it. It is a Rankin Bass Christmas special, one of the last ones they did, because they did like Rudolph in like 64 or something. So there's all those stop motion classic Christmas specials done by Arthur Rankin and Jules Bass. Probably the most popular and famous one is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but they also did Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Snow Miser and Heat Miser, The Little Drummer Boy, all of these old ones. And then I think one of the last ones they did was this one, which was shown I don't know on what network in 1985, and my parents videotaped it, with the VCR record, and then when it ended, you push stop, and it's on there on the VHS. That's the way we had to do things before DVR, kids. And so my brother and I had it on a taped off of and we would watch it all the time. I don't know why. But it was so, because like at like 7-8 years old, this is the weirdest thing, and it doesn't actually strike you as weird. It was just like a different way of talking about Santa Claus. But the problem is I didn't realize at the time it's not about Santa. Anyway, it is based on a book by L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz and all of its subsidiaries. And so that guy's got some wacky ideas about
sure does,
his whole storytelling vibes. The whole thing starts with, the closest I can describe it is just like, what if Santa Claus was a story in the Hobbit series? Like it is whatever. There's a guy who's obviously supposed to be Gandalf. Like that's his whole thing. I don't know if L. Frank Baum was writing after The Hobbit, but that guy's Gandalf. He's very tall. He's got a very long white beard. His name is the Great Ack. And right away, I'll tell you, the names of things leave a little to be desired. The Great Ack is not it's not the best way to describe
it's the most
powerful being in the universe.
Yeah.
The Great Ack is he's an immortal who lives in the forest of Burzee. That's where all the immortals live. And he has called together a council of the immortals to determine if they should bestow immortality on a mortal, and that mortal is Santa Claus. That the idea being because he's all powerful and all knowing, he knows that as soon as Santa gets home from his sleigh ride tonight, he will be visited by the spirit of death. And they say it like that for like children. Just the idea of Santa Claus is gonna die is a weird thing to like, just here's the whole point. This is a thing for children. It's definitely for children. Santa's gonna die if these people don't say he should live forever. And it's like, you should say he should live forever. He's Santa Claus. It's a very odd way of putting it.
See, I like the idea that something made Santa immortal, because that like explains Santa to kids a little bit.
Sure.
But like we know his imminent death part does, I would say, feel unnecessary in a kid's vehicle.
There is so I wrote this all down because I needed to know. There's Tingler. Tingler is a sound imp. That's what they call it, a sound imp. He's an elf. They never actually say he's an elf, but that's what the elves are, is this. And a sound imp, he's small, he's got a big nose, he's got little pointy ears, he's got jingle bells all over him, He's an elf. But Tinglers can speak every language in the universe. Not Tinglers, sound imps, and they can like not only that, like it's not languages like people, but like bird calls, and they can speak to fish. I mean, like it's really weird. So he's there, and he's through the whole through on everything. Then there's Queen Zerline of the Wood Nymphs, who's got this wonderful bouffant hairdo. And then there's so she's there and Tingler's there, and then they bring in the actual parade of the immortals. Now I should say, but through this whole thing, there's this a song that is really kind of haunting, but it's very odd it's in Latin. Ora e sempre, today and forever. Like it's this almost like a dirge that there's a refrain they play through the whole thing of like, for ages and ages to come, to the first cracking of doom. Like this is immortality. It's this very
feel very Christmassy so far.
It doesn't. It's not at all Christmassy. They actually, I don't even think they mentioned the word Christmas until like the very end of the thing. So anyway, during this whole processional music, we meet the Queen of the Water Spirits, who looks exactly like you would think, Lord of the Sleep Phase, which is just an Asian guy, and he's got he's got a big scepter with a big bulbous thing at the end that shoots out sleep gas. I don't know why. Master of the Sound Imps, who's the a big version of Tingler. Commander of the Wind Demons, who's like he's got a big mask thing, like a big flat huge face, and then his body is like a weird upside down umbrella with like things all over the place. Like it's very odd. The Grand Duke of the Light Elves with their Royal Highnesses, the Princess Flash and Twilight. It just feels this feels very much like something they started working on in 1978 and didn't finish until 1985 because it takes so damn long to do stop motion. Because all of these things feel like weird late 70s fever dreams, the way that they've all put them together. Then there's the Protector of the Nooks. The Nooks have these really long Tyrannosaurus tails and very small, hunched over bodies with little big round faces. And then there's the King of the Ryles. Ryles are like, we're talking about Wizard of Oz. They're like munchkins with little tiny housefly wings, and they flutter everywhere. Okay. So there's this huge round table of all these immortals, and the Great Ack has to tell them why they should bestow immortality on Santa Claus. And so he goes into his little spiel and says, now we should decide whether to bestow the mantle of immortality on a mortal. And then this dude pipes up. And the only reason I mention him is because he wasn't introduced during the processional. He's just a dude in a lucha mask with antlers on it, and he's like, the immortality given to to a mortal, impossible. And we never hear from that dude again. Like like they could have given that line to anybody who was a named character, but they didn't. I don't even know who that guy was. Says, I will tell you the story of Santa Claus from the beginning. Here's the story according to them of what Santa Claus is. I was walking through the forest and I saw a baby lying on the ground. And I picked it up. I knew right away it was a mortal because, as you'll find out later, there are no babies. Immortals are never babies. And so rather than take it to the nearest town, we already find out the Great Act later, he can make himself invisible and nobody can see him. Rather than take the baby to the nearest town, drop it off at an orphanage or a nunnery or whatever, I gave it to the lioness Shiegra. I told her to protect the babe and to give it her milk. And I was like, wait a minute. sorry. So Santa Claus, as a baby, you gave to a lioness, and he was raised on lion milk.
What a dumb sentient being.
I don't know why we're doing that. That's a weird thing.
That seems like a terrible call.
Yeah. He says that this happened 60 years ago. So that means that Santa Claus would be 60. But later they say he's been delivering toys for 50 years. And he did not start delivering toys when he was 10. So there's a hole in the script, and it's unforgivable.
That's the weird part about this.
Yeah. So there's this weird double flashback, right? So we flash back from him telling all the immortals about him finding the baby. Then we flash forward a little bit to him telling all of the wood nymphs about finding the baby, but the baby's still a baby. So like a week after he found the baby, he told all the wood nymphs around the same table, but they were just all wood nymphs, not all the immortals. So it's very confusing for a kid. Like what? Anyway, so one of the wood nymphs, her name is Necile. She's like, what is a baby? You are as you have always have been, Necile, because we were born in. There's this another. Now they go back to that weird song. Born in our present state, never were babies we. Like it's like, so you were born fully adult. Like, how does that work? Like, as in, like
and if you were born, that still implies that you were birthed,
right? Or, but like, did you come out of an egg, or do you reproduce asexually? What's going on with immortal sex? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, what all of that anyway. But she decides that Necile wants to be a mama. She doesn't know what being a mother is. She just wants to see a baby first. And when she sees the baby laying there,
being is an idiot.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, you just found out what a kid is, but
yeah,
here you go.
Yeah. No. Like, this is the whole thing, is that she decides she wants to. She goes and she steals the baby from the lion's cave while the lion is out taking a piss. I don't know where the lion went, but because he's not going to. Maybe it's going to find itself some meat. I don't know. But she steals the baby and she runs back. And it's like, you should not have done that, Necile. And then we see Peter Nook shows up. Peter Nook is one of the Nooks. We talked about the Nooks. And he controls all the animals of the forest. Here's Peter Nook right here, the little guy right there. And there's the great Ack. Look at him. Look how Gandalf he is. And Peter Nook says, I cannot control the lioness Shiegra. She will not respond to my commands. Oh, Peter Nook, are you not master of all the animals in the world? It's like, give me a break, Great Ack. I did my best. Like, he's like, it has never happened before. I'm very sorry. Anyway, so they agree, because she actually does a really cool trick of logic on him. She says, it is the law. No child must enter the forest of Burzy. And she's like, but it's the law. And it's like, but the great Act makes the law. So if the great Act decides that I can take care of the baby, then it's totally cool for me to take care of the baby. And he's like, yeah, well, she got me there. It's okay for you to take care of the baby. So she raises the kid. There's like a montage of the kid growing up slightly until he's about, I don't know, 12. And it's like, he's just a baby in the woods. There's so many fucking songs in this thing.
I need that soundtrack.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Banger.
Anyway, he say, he hasn't learned all of his fears. He's still wet behind the ears. He's a baby in the woods, and he's playing with like elephants and stuff, because that's what kids do. And so he's like 12, And all of a sudden, a great act comes to him, and he's like, "It is time for you to learn about the world. What is the world?" Like, this kid has no like concept of anything. So he's like, "I will show you humanity and mortals. You are a mortal. You must know of your kind. So you will go with me on a great trip around the world to find to learn about things." Like, then great, yes, I would like to go. Go then. And I'm like, wait, I thought you were taking him on the trip. What "go then" means is go pack your shit because we're going to be gone for a while. And it's very odd the way he "go then."
Yeah.
I'll like so then he says goodbye to his mom, Naseel. She's like, "There is a word, man. It means a boy who has grown. There is another word, mother. One who has a child. I am your mother. Would you call me your mother if only for this one time?" Mother. Thank you. It was very odd. So this is where I realized that a lot of my philosophy about the world came from this movie, watching it over and over again as a small child. This is actually one of the best parts about the whole thing, is he takes Claus. They name him Claus because in the language of the Forest of Burzee, it means little one, which it doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't. They're lying. But he takes them all over the place, and they find this. The first place they go is this field where these serfs are working this turnip field, and there's the overseer, Squire Rothwell or something. Like, "Oh, you must meet your quota, or I will come back and whip you all." And like, this is really mean. Is this what happens in the real world? Like, yeah, that's what happens in the real world. Real world sucks, kids. Sorry about that. And it's like, and there's this little boy who takes a turnip out of the turnip cart and puts it behind his back and tries to hide it. And the squaw's like, "Put that back, or I'll send you back to the orphanage." And because they're invisible and they can't hear them, like Christmas Carol, he's like, "It's only a turnip. He's obviously starving. Let him have one turnip." Well, I don't understand. So like 12-year-old Santa Claus is like, what is this injustice in the world? This sucks. And then they go and visit the king, who's like, "Can you believe one of the servants tried to steal one of my turnips? That's terrible." And then he talks and he's like, "And next thing you know, they'll be wanting to learn to read. And we can't have that now, can we? Then they'll start to believe they deserve more. Sooner or later, they'll want what we have. And we certainly can't have that." And I was like, oh, shit. So, like, at 8 years old, I was like, rich people suck. And I was like, no, but there's a certain thing of, like, there's a class delineation. And the reason why you keep them poor and stupid is so that they won't have dreams outside their station. And the fact that L. Frank Baum wrote that into his book 120 years ago, whenever it is very interesting, and certainly very progressive for his time.
Yeah.
But they go and they also get to visit these samurai kids who are learning to fight. It's like, why are they fighting? Well, they're training to kill other people. As children? That's really weird. Then they go and to an Arab marketplace where there's these homeless kids. Like, why don't people help them? People are selfish, and they won't give their coins to a starving child. And Santa's like, what is this? This sucks.
Can we go back to the woods, please? I want to play with an elephant. This blows.
And the thing of it is that I don't know if it's supposed to be a test from the Great Act, but Santa by the end is like, "Oh, we need to fix this shit. Like, this whatever I can do to help in any way to make these children, feel better." I should mention also there's like these little kids that live with the king, obviously probably the king's kids. One of them is a little fat boy who's just shoving all his food into his mouth. Fuck that kid. But Santa Claus is enamored with this little perfect porcelain doll of a little girl who just seems very sad living in this world. And so later he's obsessed with her. But I'm going to talk about that because it's a weird, odd thing. Like, I must make a little doll for the king's daughter. I must do it. And like, all right, whatever.
Mrs. Claus origin story. Boom.
Yeah. So he goes back to the Forest of Burzee, and he says, "I'm going to go make my way in the world and try and do whatever I can to help. Nobody tells him like you're going to make toys. He just goes. And they are going. Tingler and Shiegra go with him. So he sends out the sound imp and a lioness, who again, not immortal, just regular old lioness to go with him. And they leave the forest and they come upon, there's a delineation, a straight up line at the end of the forest, and then snow. And he's like, what is this place? This is the Laughing Valley of Ho Ha Ho. I suppose if they called it the Laughing Valley of Ho Ho Ho, it would have been too on the nose. This is the Laughing Valley of Ho Ha Ho, where it always snows because it is always winter. And Santa's like, I like this place. We shall live here. So he doesn't live at the North Pole. He lives in the Laughing Valley of Ho Ha Ho, where it always snows because it's always winter, I guess. Says, we will make camp tonight. And over there, and there's in the middle of absolutely nothing, a little shack with only 3 walls and an open wall, and they just sleep there. And then the next morning, here comes Tingler. Hello! Hey, wake up! You have guests! Guests? Who knows that they live there? I don't understand. And he walks up to the edge and looks down into this valley, and there's a church. Like a straight up church. Nothing else. Just a church. And you don't see anybody. There's just a church. It's like, you have guests. Is the guest a church? But anyway, the next scene is they're in the church, all eating together with all of his friends from the forest. Like, yeah, hey, since you showed up, let's do brunch. I don't know what this is, like why that scene is even there. It's like, I promise I will make you all proud. You could have told them that before you left. I don't understand why this scene's here. So then we have another montage where we see him grow from 12, and the next thing is like he's a young man, maybe early 20s, very fit, very nice, neatly trimmed beard, right? In one little scene where he's playing with some kids and making snowman with them. In the very next scene, he looks like this. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what that. I don't know where the candy got dropped off in the Laughing Valley of Ho Ha Ho. Is he eating snow? Is it very rich? Is it not snow? Is it sugar? What happened to make him go from svelte to svat? I don't understand what that is, but he did. He's in his early 40s and a fat guy. Listen, it'll happen to you too. But
maybe it's because he's been in the Valley of Ho Ha Ho so long, his body has just got into like hibernation mode.
There you go. Yeah,
like
he's has to insulate himself. That makes sense. So he's just sitting there absent-mindedly. I don't know what he's doing. He's been living in this valley for, let's say, 30 years in this church that they found, doing nothing. Because he hasn't started making toys yet, crucially, because he doesn't make a toy yet until now. He just decided to, we hear outside, and he looks outside, and there's a boy half frozen to death in the snow, and they thaw him out, and he says, "Hi, my name is Winkum. I was wandering away from the village, and I guess I fell into that snowbank, and I got lost. But thanks, everybody. Hello, my name is Claus. And this is Shiegra, a lion. And this is my little elf friend, Tingler, who you've never met anybody that looks like him, so it'll be totally not freaked out to you. Also, a small black cat that just got introduced into the story for no reason at all. His name is Blinky. Oh, what a wonderful kitty cat. I'd love to have one of my very own, but I'm tired. I'm going to go back to sleep now." So overnight, Claus whittles a wooden cat that looks like Blinky. And he gives them to Winkum in the morning, and Winkum is so excited. And then he takes him back into the village. There was he says, "Hello, Winkum. I'm Claus. Would you like to be my special friend?" and it's very, very not doesn't ring well. It also doesn't. It feels even worse when you hear what Winkham says when he comes back and meets all the kids in the village. He says, "This is Claus. I slept at his house, and when I woke up, there was a big surprise." And it's like, all right. I mean, you
modern
favors
that... not doing us, like modern society not doing us any favors.
You could have phrased it differently. And so then there's a very long song sung by the kids of the village, which is just like, big surprise, big surprise. I want a cat with yellow green eyes. And so they're all like very nicely sharing this one wooden cat that they're passing around that looks like I want a cat too. Please also give me a cat too, Claus. I would love a cat of my very own. I so do want a kitty. And they tell all of this to Claus, and then they go, and they turn around and walk away. They don't even wait for him to say yes or no. But he's like, maybe I should whittle little presents for all the children of the village.
Okay, like not one dog person in the bunch, and B, like, I don't know, maybe ask Claus how his day's going. Like, you're just, damn.
So he conscripts a bunch of riles and wood nymphs and sound imps, a bunch of different versions of the elves to come to his little church turned toy shop and help him make a bunch of wooden toys for all the kids of the village. And he does this literally every day, and then brings the toys literally every day to the village to give away to the children who are running out of room for toys because there aren't that many kids in the village, and you just keep doing this over and over again. So he's done this for a while now, and then somebody throws a rock through the window of Santa's toy shop with a note wrapped around it. And it says, if you Mr. Claus, if you make another toy, we're coming for you. Signed, the King of the Aguas. And by the way, his name is King Agua of the Aguas. It's not spelled that way, but I'm guessing old L. Frank didn't speak Spanish, because it is very odd to name the villain of your story King Water. Tingler's like, who is the Aguas? Says Santa Claus. Tingler's like, oh no, it's terrible. The Aguas are a race of monsters that live up in the hills, and they use mind control powers to control the children and make them do bad things, like not making their beds. And it's like he actually says like disobey their parents or whatever, but it's like one of the things is not make their beds.
Of course.
So these Aguas make children naughty. And it's not their fault. They have no agency. It's the Aguas using mind control powers to do it. I don't know what the Aguas get out of it. Like, that's never really fully stated, but they just do it because they're evil. So the late it says it says also just a little helpful tidbit. It is said they can make themselves invisible, says Tingler, and then he goes very, very creepily and ominously as he closes the door to his own bedroom. Good night. Like I just told you they can sneak into your house without you knowing and kill you. Anyway, good night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And so they sneak in. They're invisible. They have ropes. They tie up Shiegra. And they kidnap Claus. And the very next scene is Claus tied up, gagged in a cave with a giant cobra and a giant spider. And he's able to like wiggle out of the gag and go, "Nooks of the forest, come save me, please." And immediately, like two Nooks, not Peter Nook, a different guy.
This is a little dark, man.
They're very dark,
like
very dark.
Kids.
Santa's going to be eaten by a giant spider. Merry Christmas. So a couple of Nooks go, "Hey, get out of here, creatures. All Nooks can control all creatures. Go away." And so the creatures do. It's like, how did like he says what does he say? Save me, O ye nooks of the forest. Right? And the nooks come and they say, "Here we are, nooks. Who are you? How do you know the secret call?" So the cooked secret call is, "Save me, O ye nooks of the forest." If he hadn't said it like that, they wouldn't have shown up.
No way.
It's like, "I am a friend of your brother Peter Nook," says Santa. So then we actually get to meet the Aguas, not in invisible form. Here is King Agua. You're not ready for this. This is King Agua.
Why does he have a gold chain?
He's blinged out.
He looks like the guy that was like the Viking on January 6th.
Yeah.
This is like what
I do love how he's put bracelets on his big horns.
Yeah.
He's totally blinged out.
He really is. He wants people to know, like, hey,
right.
I'm doing all right as king.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what the teeth things, spiky things are coming out of his lips. Seems like a herpes situation.
Yeah, they're definitely coming out of his lips and not his mouth. That's a weird choice.
The thing about it is that he is voiced by the great Earl Hyman, who did Panthro and Thundercats, and was also the grandpa that you remember from the Cosby Show. The wonderful Earl Hyman doing King Agua and just hamming it up completely. Funny fact about Earl Hyman, he spoke Swedish. So he, for years, played Othello, Shakespeare's Othello, in Stockholm, Sweden, and all over Sweden for years because he spoke Swedish and was a black guy who was a trained Shakespearean actor. And
that's
like
wild.
They couldn't find one in Sweden, so they found a guy, and it's him. I think that's a really cool thing. Anyway, so it's Panthro's voice, which creeped me the hell out when I was a kid in 1985 because I loved Thundercats, and Panthro was a good guy, and I didn't understand why he was also King Agua. So he says, "So we are finding it very difficult to capture this Claus, but we can still stop him from making the children happy." Like that's all they want to make sure the children aren't happy. They're just evil for the sake of being evil.
That's so
but then
rude.
after he says, we can still stop him from making the children happy. And then he goes, "Tomorrow when he leaves for the village." And they fade to him leaving for the village, and then they steal all his toys. So every time he walks from the valley to the village, they steal his toys invisibly, and they keep dumping them in a giant cavern. They just take the sack of toys and they turn it upside down and dump all the toys in the cavern, and that's it.
I gotta say, like, I feel like Santa also lost the plot a little bit because wasn't he gonna try and go around the whole world and help everyone?
He's helping where he can. Like, I think the great act was like, do what you can, what a mortal can do. You know, and that's what he can help his own little nook of the world. Nook, not the other kind of nook.
But also, like, I mean, toys every day is like kind of.
It feels like it feels like it's got it. It's over and over again.
Just like one turkey dinner. You know what I mean?
He says, "Keep making your toys, Claus. Our caverns are not yet full." So, what a little bit of trash talk there from King Agua.
Love that.
So then the great is like, you cannot stop me. I will find a way to be able to keep making my toys. And the next thing we see is the great Ack apparently have been tattled to by Santa, who can't fight his own battles, goes and gets the master woodsman immortal Ack, who says to Agua, "Stop messing with my friend." And Agua's like, "No, it is war." It's like, so be it. So then he goes and he brings out like it's a loving little wooden case, and he opens it up, and there's a big silver axe in it. The great axe has a great axe. Honestly, they should have thought this through.
Also, though, like, he's willing to go to war over just making kids sad.
Yes, because he's evil.
It's like a little much, though.
It's a little. It's like way much. It's way much. So the great axe socks this axe. He says, "Oh, great silver axe! I have wanted to." He's like caressing it. I have wanted to avoid war, but apparently it seems inevitable. You shall help me slay the forces of evil. He always says evil.
It's also not inevitable. Just like let kids have toys. Who gives a shit?
Well, no, but like apparently the Aguas aren't going to stop stealing toys, so got to kill them. So then they meet on the top of this mountain to do battle across anyway. And the Aguas are like, look at them. They fight with tree branches. Because who did the great axe bring? Wood nymphs, some nooks, a couple of riles. That's it.
Come on, man.
And so it's the Aguas, plus the Aguas have found their mercenaries. One is a giant with 3 eyes. One of them is a flying demon, and one of them is a weird, long Chinese-style dragon, right? Look, behold, they fight with tree branches. We will destroy them. Our forces of evil will destroy them. Go forth, great dragon, and incinerate them. And I'm like, this is dark stuff. So
that's
the great
a
dragon
lot
goes up there, and
a kid.
A nameless wood nymph, not Nacille, that would make sense because she's trying to protect her adopted son. Just a random wood nymph. You can tell it's not the same one. She steps forward with her little tree branch, and she casts a spell that forces the fire back into the dragon's face, and he just burns into ash.
Oh my goodness.
Very dark. Then there's a Ryle who takes one of the Aguas and throws a tree branch at him, and he catches it, and it immediately turns him into muck, like he just drops into goo. And then he blooms into a flower, and the flower dies. Some really, really interesting magical ways of killing people. And then there's it's a weird furry, it's like a chimpanzee with bat wings and a weird Halloween mask is what it looks like. And it's flying toward the great axe. And it just points his big silver axe at him, shoots a bolt of lightning at it, and it explodes. Says, "Your evil friends are dead. Charge!" And they charge at him, and all the Aguas run away, right? And I'm like, oh, they scared him off. Oh, that's good. A way to avoid further bloodshed. Why you had to do the most extra version of killing off these 3 mercenaries is because you wanted to scare them off so they wouldn't come back. Next scene. The great axe comes to the Claus and says, "You may continue to deliver your toys in peace. The Aguas have perished." Which means you chased them down and executed them.
They have
perished. Perished is very different than ran away. You'll never see them again. We found them. They were hiding.
And we murdered them.
We murdered them.
In the name of toys.
Publicly executed in the town square. But now they've been making all these toys, right? But they haven't had a way to deliver them, so they have all these toys. Well, how are we gonna? We can't get the sleigh. We can't get the sleigh to move. I was gonna pull it over my shoulder like a dragon a radio flyer wagon. Nope, it's too heavy. And Peter Nook says, "Hey, you want these reindeer? These reindeer, they live in the forest. You want them? They can pull your sleigh." And he's like, "Oh, great, but they must be back before daybreak." "Oh, sure, I can do that." So the reindeer are pulling the sleigh, and they jump from one crag of the mountain to another. And Tingler's with him. He says, "We've cleared the entire valley in just a few leaps. It's almost as though we're flying." But crucially, they're not. So The reindeer don't fly. They just jump really far. Which seems like a problem when you're going to cross the Atlantic Ocean or something eventually, but maybe that
It's
gets
also
fixed
just
when he becomes
like
immortal.
you've already introduced like immortality and
Right.
weird stuff here. Like, I don't know why you were like, we have to be grounded about the reindeer.
The reindeer are just regular reindeer. They're not magic reindeer yet. They're just regular reindeer. They all the kids all over the area, not just in the village, want toys now. And they can't make toys fast enough. If only we had all of the toys that the Aguas stole, then we'd be fine. Well, too bad. We'll never find them. The next morning, hey, we found the toys. It never is discussed as to how they found the toys, what cave system they were hiding in. Also, these are just toys that have been dumped out of a sack, laying on the damp, dark floor of a cave, probably covered in bat shit. Like, here, Sally, here's a little dolly.
Like, the juju around that of the people that you murdered and redistributing their toys is just a little that I don't like that, like, from an energy standpoint. Like, I don't think we should be giving Sally like, hey,
no,
we incinerated, we murdered, we pillaged.
Right. So apparently he says this is where Great Axe says, so where is Santa Claus now? Says somebody at the round table. We're back to the round table now. And he says he has been delivering his toys for 50 mortal years. He's which means, again, he was a baby 60 years ago, and 50 years ago he looked like this. So I'm just going to say, like, there's some problems here with your narrative storytelling. But they say he's been helping all these children, and without him, everyone's going to be sad. So what do you say? Should we make him immortal? And after all that talk of, no, we should never give immortality to a mortal, impossible, everyone at the table's like, yeah, sure, it sounds good.
Well, now that you explained, we should probably do it.
And that's the end of the movie. That's it. Like,
go home with that.
Great Act goes to Santa and says, hey, now you're an immortal. So get cracking on those toys. Like, the idea of, if you've been making and delivering toys for 50 years, maybe you don't want to die, but maybe you want to retire.
Want to retire at some point, yeah.
Like hey, hey, I got you something. Oh, is it a gold watch for my retirement? Is it a condo in Maui? No. You get to do this for the rest of time. Happy Christmas.
Oh boy.
So that is why Santa is immortal, because a giant Gandalf looking mother effer and his weird coterie of crazy people decided, you're immortal now, and you got to keep making toys for everybody. It's never explained how he goes from like the surrounding areas to the entire world. That's just not a thing. We never actually find that out. I don't know if they if they can bestow immortality on Santa. Do they ever do it to Shiegra? Because Shiegra, by the way, I don't know how long lions live, but she was a full adult lioness when he was a baby, and now he's at least 70, regardless of what the script says. I don't think lionesses live that long, but she's totally still kicking. Like,
I mean, good on her. But
good for her.
Like, I feel like there was a lot of really good intent here. Like, I like a Santa origin story. I even like let's connect the fact that Santa has elves to something. That's nice.
Yeah.
Kind of a really dark drug trip on the same plane, though.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find like pictures of all of the weird creatures because they look whacked out. Like King Og was one of the craziest by far. But all of them look just nuts. Like they're just like somebody's crazy LSD dream.
Yeah.
Like come to life.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you keep the flick?
this is one of the hardest ones because it is not a great storytelling. Or some of the stop motion is also really lazy. Like when Necile is running with the baby in her arms, her legs are doing this. Like it's not at all running. It's just weird. Like at one point, I think she's double jointed. Like her legs are like, maybe that's how wood nymphs run. I don't know. It's just very odd. I really love the idea of Santa as a very young man being like, the world sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe I could just try and make, like, I don't know, 75 kids happy constantly, and that'll be the one way that I'm able to help the world be better. And then they're like, psych, you got to help every child all over the world once a year. I do think that's a bit of a leap. But I'm gonna keep it in simply because it is something that I really feel like has to be seen to be believed. Like, if you are not familiar with the movie and you are watching it and you're like, I think I have a handle on what mythical creatures look like in this movie, and then King Agua shows up, it's gonna knock your socks off, man. You know,
I love
like
that.
all of a sudden, blinged out super herpes bullhorn guy is not. It's not going to work out. It's So I'm gonna keep it in just because I think people should experience it.
That's fair.
But it does have some holes, and Tingler's really annoying. Like really annoying. Like one of the things, because he knows all the languages, like everything he says in like 6 languages.
Oh God, we don't have to constantly.
Like he just says it over and over again in different languages, and then like he'll throw in like a blue jay call, like out of like.
We get it, dude. Like you don't have to flex on it that hard.
Yeah, show off. All right.
Well, next week, a very special Christmas episode.
Yeah. Yes. Very special. It'll be fun.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining in. May your holidays stay merry and bright. And we'll see you in the next one, when we will decide whether or not to get the flick out of here. Bye, everybody.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.